10. Lessons from Moses. The story of Exodus. 1. Pharaoh was not the most difficult part. What Moses feared most, speaking to Pharaoh, was simple because God handled it. The hardest part turned out to be the people's stubborn hearts, showing we are often our own greatest obstacle. 2. The way to the promised land is through the wilderness. Leaving Egypt doesn't mean immediate arrival in the promised land. Transformation happens in the wilderness, where God dwells with his people and reveals himself. 3. Sometimes slavery is very attractive. Slavery feels safe, familiar, and predictable, requiring no heart change. We can confuse Egypt and Canaan in our own lives. 4. Never take God's presence for granted. The Israelites weren't spared for their righteousness, but because of the Lamb's blood and Moses' mediation. God's presence is a gift of mercy, not merit. 5. The severe battles begin near the Promised Land. The real battles came when Israel neared the Promised Land, not in Egypt. God never promised an easy life, but he promised he would always be with us, even in times of fear and uncertainties. 6. It's not just about leaving Egypt, it's a new relationship. Exodus is about more than escaping slavery. It's about forming a covenant relationship with God. The Promised Land signifies a new identity under God's rule. 7. We often don't know what we need. Manna, meaning what is it, shows that God's provision is beyond our understanding. What matters is trusting his faithfulness to provide. 8. Approaching God is only possible under his terms. God's perfect holiness makes approaching him impossible or even fatal without his mercy. We cannot approach God on our terms. 9. Every stage of Exodus was initiated by God. From leaving Egypt to the tabernacle, God initiated and directed every step. His guidance ensured the people's journey and covenant relationship. 10. Nothing can ruin God's plan. God's plan to deliver his people succeeds despite sin or opposition. His promises depend on his faithfulness, not our efforts. What lessons have you learned from the book of Exodus? Share your reflections below.